Welcome to Mane Up Memphis Mood Dudes podcast. It's Moody Monday, and we are discussing mental health, masculinity, and manhood as always. Today, in addition to our lovely host Joey, we have a special. I know you lying. We have a special guest, Dr. Sid. Listen, if you've been in the 901 any amount of time, you know who Dr. Sid is. If you listen to 95.7, if you have Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you know who this man is. Very popular, very pronounced, very heavy voice in the region, Memphis and the Mid-South, and really around the world. Low key, he just don't be flexing. But we are definitely happy to have him here. Um, I thank God for favors because he just agreed, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. So we're definitely happy to have you, Dr. Sid. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you offer, and then we're gonna jump right into our conversation today.
Sure. Well, listen, I'm grateful to be here. Thank you so very much for inviting me. Of course, I'm Dr. Sid. My full name is Sidney Poitier Malone. You can tell who my mother liked when I was born. I have served in this particular role for the past 43 years, I want to say. And I know I don't look it, but it is what it is. I'm very grateful to be a native Memphian, to be able to help those who are part of this city, and then also very fortunate to travel and to help others, whether they be executives, Fortune 500, Fortune 50, mom and pops. But my main role is to help people realize their potential and to maximize it. We're able to get into the nuances of cultural norms and societal pressures, and being able to help executives think from an executive mindset, because of course there are differences there. And then product analysis, diversity awareness, I mean, you name it, that's what we do. We do it from a spiritual basis, not churchy, not religious, but from a spiritual connection, because I believe everything starts from there and it goes outward. And so we help people connect to the holistic aspect of their lives so that they can fulfill whatever goals or whatever they're trying to accomplish. So I've had the pleasure and honor of doing that for about, like I said, about 40 plus years. And I'm very grateful to be with you tonight.
So if they don't have the type of rapport we have, when I can just call you, how can somebody book you if they need your services?
You can reach out to me at Dr. Sid, executive coach. I'm on all social media platforms. You can reach out to me. You can message me, inbox me. You can also go to a particular website on which, well, you know what? You can text this number. This would be the easier. 94000. You can text 94000, and you can put in the comment Dr. Sid. DRSID, and that text will come directly to me, and we can take it from there. It's a white glove service. We'll be glad to help you with whatever you have need.
Awesome. And I guarantee you by the end of this episode or episodes, you will want to book with him. I also see you have your fraternity paraphernalia on, but I'm going to leave that alone. So anyway, if you are not looking at this, I'll just let y'all guess which one it is. Matter of fact, put it in the comments, and we'll let you know if you are accurate or not. So, Joey, Bishop, I'm sorry, Dr. Sid, Lord Jesus, cut that
well,
out.
that's my day job too. Bishop, I pastor church, New Growth in Christ, but don't let that deter you.
Yeah, so about 4:38. Just snip that out. All right, Joey. Dr. Sid everybody in here has a Y chromosome. I want to start our conversation with this question: if you could tell every man on Earth one thing, what would that be?
If I can tell every man on this earth one thing, what would it be?
Like if you were not Magneto, a Professor X, and you had Cerebro on, and you could reach all the humans simultaneously, and you were just talking to the males, what would you say?
Well, what comes immediately to mind is I would tell them your life has meaning. Now, the task is to find out what that is. Find out why you were created. Find out why your nuances and your uniqueness was birthed within you and maximize that. Don't try to be another person. Don't fall into the trap of comparison and competition, but embrace collaboration. Embrace the fact that there are others who might appeal to you because of certain potentials that are on the inside, and not look at that as something to be offended of or something to compete with, but something to learn from so that you can maximize your full potential. But every man is unique in his own being. Find your uniqueness, embrace it, and live without excuses.
Mm, I want to say so much right there. But Joy, we also want to hear from you. Come on. Mutant powers.
Okay.
What would you say?
All right. I would say find a mission slash find a community and be a leader in that community, whatever space that is. You can be a leader in digital spaces like we talked about last week. You
Mhm.
can be a leader in your school, in your community, and so everywhere you have a chance to be a leader, uh, I'd say do it.
That's good.
Mm, beautiful. So I want to talk to. So for those who need a topic, you'll see it on the podcast title, "The Moods of Manhood." And in my own manhood journey, I'll be 32 in October at the time of this recording. I'm learning that manhood has colors actually. It's not just one broad stroke. It's darn near a mosaic. And I'm using an artistic analogy. But what I'm trying to convey is that it's so much in manhood. It's not as black and white or dichotomous as we have been socialized to believe, and is also not as archaic or primal as some others will want it to be. There's so much nuance and even finesse to it. And I wanted to get what would you guys say to every man at the same time. You could say one thing because I was looking for um, insight to how you guys see manhood, right? So one of the things you both had in common is mission. Why do we think missions is so synonymous at almost in parallel with manhood and masculinity? Yeah, we go in there today.
Mm.
Joey, you want to go first?
uh, yeah, I think it maybe comes down to just one of those inherent natural instincts that I mean, not, okay, some I think we're all men are born with certain natural instincts. I mean, I think that's just yeah, I would hope that we can at least agree on that,
Hmm.
and that doesn't mean that you can't have nurturing instincts if you're a male and vice versa. So I mean, like it is a spectrum, but yeah, as we're talking about the we've talked about previously about the modern version of manhood and being a male and in this world, and I just keep going back to um, the mission of helping people, for instance, is what kind of pushes me forward. But your mission could be in like maybe you're really big in your community in Dungeons and Dragons, and you are a table master or whatever. You're big in that community. You can be a leader in that community, and I think that's something that most males would either aspire to have or to actually um, you know to to to, to cling on to and really kind of dig their teeth into a little bit.
Hmm.
Hmm. Dr.
You know,
Sid?
very very good, Joey. I agree with you totally. I I believe that every man should have an individual conversation with the culture.
Mm,
And the reason why I say that is because, culturally speaking, that's when men are pretty much taught, especially from today's culture, to suppress emotions. They're taught to associate vulnerability with weakness. They're
Hmm.
taught to be aggressive. They're taught to be, silent or stoicism. And I think that every man has to have a conversation and then also, again, embrace their uniqueness. Um, I think that we need to really, as men, be okay with being who we are as we find our mission, as we find our leadership role, understanding that each person will not be the same. Malehood is not a cookie cutter type of experience
There
where
we
we
go.
all express it and demonstrate it in a particular way, and realize that it's okay to be who you are. Now, do we need those mentors? Do we need those individuals to help sharpen us? Yes, we do. At the same time, we also need to embrace our own individual uniqueness and identities. And in doing that, realize that some things that might not be, okay with other individuals, it's fine with you, regardless of what the culture says, regardless of how male stereotypes are presented. We must embrace who we are and walk in that.
So how do we discover that? And Joy, I want to come to you on that one. Um, is it a discovery? Does it have an end? Flesh that out for us.
Uh, let's see. Man, that's a
I'm
good
working
one.
you tonight.
That's a tough. Oh, wait, I feel like you, Emmanuel, have not really. You've been doing a lot of asking of questions. What about your take on this? I'm curious.
You know, I always got to take, but I was trying to hear from you guys.
Well, there's three people here. Let's. I want to hear
So
your thought
my take on what specifically?
on what Doctor said.
Well, yes. From the beginning, yes. I think though, I think we need to take some of the mysticism out of manhood. I think it's so manhood is a spectrum. Let's establish that there. Okay.
Hmm.
There are pillars though that every man would share, right? But it is a spectrum. Okay. And in that spectrum, we tend to be polar. When I say we, I mean society, and we skip everything in the rest of the spectrum, right? And when I say spectrum, I don't mean an arch, I mean a circle. Okay. So in these polar parts, I'm trying to get in the shot here, we either black and white it and it's just this and that's it, or we Disneyfy it, like, oh, it's just so great and so wonderful. And we are, man, you must be swift as a raging like the Mulan song. Love Mulan, no shade by the way. But like, I think the exploration needs to happen in the circle. And I think a lot more men would be more satisfied with themselves, more confident, more aware, and more motivated if they were willing, or even if they were just aware of the opportunity to know more about themselves. Because one thing I am a proponent of is understanding self. Self does not have to do with gender. It's you, the person, the personality, the anima, however you want to pronounce it. It's the you, the inner you, right? A lot of stuff, particularly in manhood, and we can talk about womanhood, but particularly in manhood, is so socialized. And here in the West, a lot of socialization is rooted in capitalism. We've already established that like 4 episodes ago. So it is so important as a man in the West, particularly a man of color, to understand yourself unattached to a role or responsibility. So I encourage, like if I had to answer the original question, the first thing I would say is breathe. And then the second thing I would say is find out who you are for you, not attached to a responsibility. Because I think it's such an ego trap to get lost in your own sauce And when I say your own sauce, I mean the sauce of your role, and never really learn who you are. And I think it's a discredit. It's a robbing of yourself. You discredit yourself if you never give yourself the opportunity or even just the curiosity to understand the vicissitudes or the complexities of you, right? And I think that journey is manhood. Like discovering that is masculine. That's the take. It sounds like I'm teaching a philosophy class, but that's my take on that.
May I add something, please?
Sure.
You know, part of this conversation definitely has to take into consideration many different factors. One factor is generationally speaking. When you talk about men, you have different generations of men, and certain men have allowed themselves to be formed based upon the societal lessons that they learned in their generation. It's difficult to tell a man who's 60 plus, you need to redefine masculinity. You need to embrace your emotional literacy. That might be met with some resistance based upon how they were brought up. Now, I am, just like y'all gentlemen, I consider myself a renaissance from the aspect of I don't stop learning. I don't get to a place where I become stuck. But we've got a lot of men who are stuck. And so in telling them to be comfortable with themselves might also encourage them to embrace maybe something that's archaic, but it works for them. So I just wanted to throw that, that little caveat in there, and maybe that will facilitate a little more robust discussion.
It does, and I'm gonna be careful because we get to playing tennis, Dr. Sid.
Hey, I love it.
And to that point, enjoy. I guess you could just referee. No, I'm joking. And to that point, though, who determines? And I'm using who, not what, on purpose. What is a healthy man? What does that look like? Is it subjective, or is there some standardized model or version of a healthy man or a healthy manhood? And I would love to hear y'all feedback on that, because I'm pretty sure there's a 25-year-old somewhere listed as right now asking the very same question. He may have had a role model who role modeled in reverse or didn't have one at all. So what is a quote unquote healthy man? What are the moods of a healthy man?
I think it's standardized individually. I think that there are certain emotions that we must address as well as understand, because as you stated earlier, we all have a certain chromosome. So there are certain things that from a biological aspect we must understand, certain things from a cultural aspect, societal aspect, spiritual aspect, visionary aspect. And so I think it's individualized to that particular individual, their pursuits, the discovery of their identity, the impetus of their mission. And there are some things that, yes, we can learn from a community of men. We can learn vulnerability. We can learn how to be an emotional man in these safe spaces that are provided by those other individuals to help us navigate this emotional quagmire that many of us experience from pre-puberty, puberty, all the way up. So I think, to answer your question, I think that yes, it's standardized to an extent, but I think it's more so individualized based upon that particular person.
Yeah, and I like earlier you mentioned that manhood was a journey, and I just made me reflect immediately on what I thought was a man at 10, 12, 15 is different than what I think of as a man at at my current age, which I'm not going to say out loud, but
You don't look it.
At 18,
as a
come on, just
as
say
a
it. 18.
as a 43-year-old male. Yeah, so I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot. I think I mentioned in the previous episode that like even the the media representations of what it is to be a man has evolved. You go back and watch an action movie from the 80s and 90s,
Hmm.
and it's just a different feel. Like you got
Yeah.
Arnold with his muscles out, and just
Double O
yeah,
Seven.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those archetypes definitely resonate with a lot of guys, but I don't know if there's any movement towards a, like you said, a community of males. uh, maybe this is the beginning of that, but I'm always hoping to change the narrative, but then also we are a part of the narrative right now as we speak, which I find very encouraging. But also, other men should be part of this conversation, because we want to lead the conversation as much as possible, instead of having Hollywood define it for us, I guess.
Agreed. And you said community, and there is one thing that I know that brings almost every man together, and that is wings. Okay, particularly here in Memphis.
Wings.
Memphis is known worldwide for the barbecue, but I've been living here in Memphis going on 9 years. It's really the wings. It's the wings. If you want good barbecue, you got to go to somebody's house, like Dr. C's house. But I mean, there's a couple good spots. You got to know where you're going. Like they're mostly in the hood, and no shade, but some of the more, yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone. But let me tell you where to find some community and some good wings. Debo's Wings and Daiquiris on Riverdale, and there are other locations. That's where you need to go. You need to go on Sunday night, Monday night, and Thursday night. Why? Because football, right? And they have $1 wings. You can't beat that with a hammer. Like, so, Debo's, we appreciate your collaboration with Mane Up Memphis. For those who may have come to this podcast on happenstance, which I don't believe in, but you don't know what Mane Up Memphis is, Joey, could you tell us a little bit more about Mane Up Memphis and our mission?
Yeah, of course. Mane Up Memphis is one of a kind. We deal with mental health for 11 to 25-year-olds, and then we also help them with their financial literacy. So we're really trying to help this current and up and coming generation to get their mentals right, and then get their financials right. So that's what we do. We're a nonprofit, and we're always looking for volunteers. Eventually, we're going to be looking for new hires. So we're expanding, and we just want to be a part of the community.
Yes, that's what we do. Awesome. And that ad was brought to you by Debo's Wings and Daiquiris. They got some good seafood too. Get into it. So, community, what are some things? But I don't want to skip the mood part because that's important. Enjoy. I'm gonna pull on you. I feel like I may be teasing you, but I don't care. So, clinically, because I do want to hit it clinically. When we talk about mood, can you define that, and then how does that relate to manhood? Go.
Mood, yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to put mood into definition clinically, but it's essentially how are you feeling emotion. Oh, go ahead.
Well, the gag is it's hard to define mood because mood is self-defined,
Oh
right?
yeah.
As
Mhm.
clinicians, we can define affect all day, all the words, right? But mood is self-defined and self-reported. So, but there are some, which I'm sure you're about to share, some like common descriptors we can use. So hit those, let the people know because they may need some help with that literacy. Because we talked about a long time ago even back at our event at Baptist, how we always want to name when it's really masking everything anger, right? And it may just be disappointment, right? Or we may want to mask things as anger again, and you're just sad, right? So
Mhm.
talk about that relationship with mood and language, the description of mood, and how that impacts masculinity. That is a book, but hit that real quick.
Well, yeah. I mean, mood is. I think it's a bit of a spectrum too. But you have like, have you've seen the feelings wheel, and
Hmm.
anyone who has been in the either as a practitioner or as a client, may have come across the feelings wheel. But like it's the different levels of emotions that we feel in a day. That you have your core emotions,
Mm-hmm.
happy, sad, angry. But like you said before, a lot of those emotions are surface level emotions
Mm-hmm.
that are masking what is actually happening underneath. So for a lot of guys, mood is I'm angry means, you know, it's like a surface level emotion, but what they're really angry at is something much, much deeper. And that's where as men, we really need to be able to identify that feeling, um,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to, and this is a big part for me, is articulate. Being able to articulate our emotions is something that I think all men, a lot of men struggle with. I
Mm-hmm.
put myself in that category sometimes too, even as a clinician. It is, especially when it's a difficult emotion to express. So I think that's where, when
Mm.
you're talking about mood, don't don't look at just the surface level part of it. Look at maybe like, okay, there's something underneath here that we need to tackle.
Yeah. Pause, guys. Pause. Dr. Sid, I see your wheels turning, but I'm getting a lot more wind now. I guess you're in the day of Pentecost, um, in the upper room because it's. I mean, it's really windy, and I don't know if the sound guy can edit that out. You probably
Well,
can, Joe.
we'll be able to isolate, the whoever's audio is talking the most. Like we can isolate that. So
Okay.
Are you
we'll
still hearing it?
Nope.
no.
Yeah. Whatever you did worked.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry about
Yeah.
that.
Is it going to cause you to be hot on your patio?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay. Well, let's jump back in the next second so it'll be easier to clip. And you can share what you had, Dr. Sid.
Now?
Yes.
Okay. Um, so yeah, in talking about moods and talking about emotions, where I land is on the emotional aspect. Um, for me, I like to break words down, and maybe it's not the technical meaning of it, but it is something that we can understand and we can practically put into play. When we talk about emotions, E stands for inner motions. I think men need to not only identify what those inner motions are, what's pushing me in a particular direction, what's causing me to
Mm,
have this particular mood. We must identify, but also we need to learn how to process it. Where do I go from here? What Once I've identified it, do I now just let whatever words come out, or whatever actions or whatever feelings are dominant? Do I just let those rule the day? Or do I now, because I'm empowered with identifying, do I now choose a particular processing method that will not only get me to fully embrace my challenges, but also respect those who are connected to me? Because we I think there is um, a responsibility that even though we are feeling a particular emotion, or we're in a particular mood, there's a responsibility for us not to project that on others and to now make them become subject to our emotions. I think that's unfair to other people. And so, not only the identity aspect of it, but that's what you saw processing in my mind. How do we now walk this out? Not only do we feel it, but how, from a mature, disciplined aspect, we responsibly share how we feel, and at the same time still respect those individuals who might not feel what we feel. I mean, it's all about
Mhm.
perspective. And so, how do we embrace that, and how do we handle that? I think that that comes with the emotional literacy aspect of it, that men need to learn. Because one of my favorite questions that I love to pose: who taught you how to feel? Who taught you how to feel? Feelings are not just something abstract, but it is something that, yes, even though it hits us, it shouldn't drive us.
Mm.
So just those types of things.
Hmm. So remember, and at the beginning of the episode, when I said manhood has color. So this
Hmm.
is a great example for those who are watching of oh my gosh, I'm glad that was the good album of a feelings wheel of an emotions wheel, and you have the cores, and then you see how it branches out, and there's so many layers and dynamics and specificity to emotions and feelings. And these are technically emotions. You can split hairs, but we talking about
Yeah.
emotions. Um, and it's important, and that leads me to the next question, like how much of manhood is, for those who are struggling in their manhood journey, how much of it is just a mask, like you don't want to be vulnerable with your emotions, or how much is it you just don't know how to articulate it? You see what I'm saying? If you had the language for it and the space, let's start there. If you had the space for it, and then you have the language, could you actually do it? Or because you're so wrapped up in your perception of manhood, you just say forget it, right? Because one the pressures of manhood are crazy. Let's
Mm.
start there. Everybody sees the glory, but nobody knows the story. And I'm not going to get on a soapbox, but if I want
Hmm.
to, it's okay because this is a safe space. Okay. But the point is, and both of y'all have been a man much longer than I have. It's like waking up every day and you have a responsibilities. And like it don't stop. It might slow down. You make him build in a pause. We like to call those vacations. Mm. But like, who else really experiences that? Especially as a BIPOC man, a Black Indigenous person of color. Like, it's crazy. Like, yeah, and I don't like the word crazy, but I'm gonna use the word crazy. Like every day, I gotta do something every day, and then can't complain, and you better show up for everybody. And if you any semblance of humanity, it's a problem, right? That is wild. And now I am done. We're gonna wrap up here shortly, and I might go to Debo's. But I want to hear y'all take on that.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with you mentioned that and there's a lot of good stuff in there that you mentioned. And so let's talk about like I think the modeling is where you said, can we with the self-awareness piece.
Hmm.
So like that's one thing about, with therapeutic process, like you can have the self-awareness that says, okay, look, through this process of healing, I've learned that I have trauma from this, and this.
Hmm.
Okay, and that's a great insight. But what do you do with that insight is the next big, really important thing. Because one thing you can get in trouble with is you get fixated on just that insight, and you don't actually make any forward motion or progress. You're just fixated on that.
That's
And I
so
think
good.
that's where I think a lot of men will struggle with is taking that next step.
Now
Or
what?
now what? Yes, exactly.
Hmm.
And then what then it gets into the what are my friends going to think? What is my family going to think? So all the
Hmm.
societal pressures come out. And I don't unfortunately I don't really have a great solution other than action. Take some, like, with that knowledge that you just acquired through therapy or through whatever revelation you had. You have that knowledge, you have the burden of that knowledge, but you also have the power of that knowledge.
Come
and
on.
and so that's where I feel like we, as men, can be emboldened by that, and actually take action, like the men did before us. We need action now more than any time, I think. And that's the only way that I've really seen actual progress is you can think your way to your blue in the face, but you're eventually going to need action. So,
there's safety in community, and historically, men have always had those safe spaces of community. Might not have been the most therapeutic or the healthiest, but
Mm-hmm.
when you talk about the locker room, you talk about the barbershop, you talk about corner, the basketball court, men had those spaces where they could express masculinity without judgment. And then even, fortunately or unfortunately, however you deem it, those spaces were also opportunities for lessons to be taught. Now, whether those lessons were accurate or not, that's up to debate. But to answer the question, I think that your community is so essential. Um, we're not called to live life on an island. Um, we must draw from those individuals who can help pour into us, not only the generations that are before us, but also our compadres, our comrades, those individuals who are walking with us, and then even the generation that is coming after us. There's just so many different, as you stated on that wheel, so many different facets to our feelings, our emotions. And I think that to try to forge ahead in isolation is, it's a major strike toward our successful progression. So I just sort of camp on that community piece. You've got to have those mentors. You got to have those non-judgmental friends. You got to have those encouragers. You got to have those examples. You even got to have those adversaries to show you that there's more in you than what you thought. And all of that forges that identity of masculinity and help us, I believe, achieve day to day.
You said a word that is brought up in clinical spaces, podcast spaces, spiritual spaces, a lot, and that's isolation. Historically, I think people have misused that word, particularly in spiritual spaces, but that's another podcast. Another platform podcast. But isolation is healthy when used correctly. But what we have seen historically, particularly with men, is that it has been maladaptive to what we're seeking or what we need, rather. So, because in isolation, addiction thrives. In isolation, stagnancy, like it's hard to move when you're by yourself. Um, you can also you get the threat of the loop because there's no other influence to break the cycle, to encourage questioning of why do you do this, or have you considered this, or so isolation can be so detrimental, and especially to men. Nonetheless, isolation is almost taught to men, and when I say isolation, I don't necessarily mean proximity. I mean emotional isolation. Your emotions are stuck because you're not expressing them. So you have self-isolated. You can be a father of 9 and have a wife, um, a part of the community, the whole 9, no pun intended. But you still feel isolated. And we wonder why trigger warning suicide rates are the way they are. We wonder why people in these high pressure positions just quit because they never have the space to release safely, to move those what you call inner emotions. Doctor says it's emotion for a reason, right? And I wanted to encourage, not because I know more than men listen to this, so I want to encourage those if you are isolated and it is in a unhealthy fashion, meaning nobody can find you, and I don't mean again GPS, I mean like emotionally we can't locate you. Get out of that space. Um, let somebody know where you are. And the way you do that is through communication. So I think there's so much more to the moods of manhood that we really need to dig into.
May I add to
Uh,
that real quick?
you sure can.
Just one of the reasons why men isolate is because we got to get to the root of it. The fear of vulnerability. They
Mhm.
don't want to feel vulnerable because they've been taught that if I'm vulnerable, I'm weak, I'm not manly. If I
Hmm.
don't have control, that means that, something is wrong with me. But, for those who are forging not from the healthy isolation, but from that unhealthy isolation, because everything that has a buildup of pressure needs what you just said, needs a release. And
Hmm.
if there's not a release, then that pressure can cause an implosion, explosion, whatever the case may be. And so, we've got to address that fear. Why are you afraid to be vulnerable? It takes nothing from a man if tears are coming down. It takes nothing from a man to share that I'm scared or I'm not certain. It takes nothing from a man. And so we've got to undo these wrong teachings and this wrong thinking and this wrong believing in order for us to have that healthy progression as you talked about.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think you mentioned community again, and I really can't. I guess my soapbox for the night is having community. For not just a holistic community. Yes, we need to have that as well, but like having a community amongst men. We've been doing that for centuries and for generations. So I think we need to bring that back, make it inclusive for everybody. Because we're
Yeah.
all we're all men. We're all trying to find and navigate the right path. And I think that, just us having this conversation, I even know I have at least one listener because the sound guy, Robert, is listening or will be listening to this. So he's being impacted by, at the very least, one person's being impacted by what we're saying,
Hey,
and he's
Robert.
been giving us good feedback. He's loving the show, and he's Mane Up now. So yeah, just I encourage all guys, try to find your people, and whether it's like yeah, pick up basketball game, the chess tournament. Like I saw that we had the Master Next Move event that we
Hmm.
did. So there's a lot of opportunities. I think we're just we've gotten a little too shy for our own goods maybe, and we just need
Mm.
to shake that off a little bit.
Going
Mm.
to going to Debo's, eating some wings. Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
Yes, because you
Okay.
have. What I
Uh,
think you said this
I
other
was
time,
gonna.
Doctor said. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say real quick. I have a confession. I haven't been to Debo's yet. Is that
Oh, we're
is that
changing that.
bad?
We're
Oh yeah.
changing that.
Oh
We're
yeah.
Okay,
changing that.
I'll admit
Oh
it,
yeah.
and we can make a whole show about that. But
Oh yeah.
So you know that list that we gave you of local places that you have to eat. Debo's has
mm,
now moved to the top. Okay,
okay, all right,
let's see.
okay,
Sunday, I don't think I have anything to do at the church. We're going to Debo's,
okay, all right.
and we're going to enjoy those $1 wings and other things that they offer. um, so, but this is how you find your community. And Dr. Sid, I believe you say this. If you don't, I'm not a gambling man, but I'm pretty sure you say this. Location breeds community. No, communication breeds location. That's Dr.
Yes.
Sid. I thought so. So
Yes.
the way you find your community is not mystic. It's not uh, mystery. You talk, and you will attract the people who need to be in your community. Well, let me be very clear. You'll attract a whole bunch of stuff, but wisdom will teach you how to filter who needs to be there, who's there for a season, who's there more permanently, yada 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 yada. That's another episode, right? But if you don't talk, if your tongue is isolated, you will never find anybody. It just be you and your unmoving emotions and those
Right.
thoughts that are beating your tail. I almost said something else.
Right.
So if you don't talk, you won't be located, right?
Mhm.
So because we have had our conversation, we're gonna continue the conversation on these Moody Mondays, and we're gonna continue the conversation with some Debos, and that's all I got. Joey, take us out.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. This has been the Mane Up Memphis podcast. I want to thank Dr. Sid and Emmanuel for their time. For the next episode, you just got to stay tuned. We got some great programming for you guys, and just hope to see you guys at the next episode. Peace.